Hello, everybody. It's Julie, and I have had so many thoughts lately. Just focusing on so many things. So a few days ago, I made a video about how Christians are mocking or calling out other Christians because they're not having church services, and I talk about why we should not be doing that. And so you can watch that. I'll include the link in the description of this video. But it's called Christians, What Are You Doing? So today, I've been seeing so many things. Like, first of all, God has really been speaking to me a lot lately about where my life is as a Christian and what I need to be doing. Essentially, he's not telling me what I need to be doing in the way that I'd like him to tell me, but he's making me really think and focus on how I need to be living my life as a believer. And I think we forget that a lot. And today he was making me remember, well, the last few weeks, he's been making me remember things and think about things that I'd rather not. Things from the past that were extremely painful, but were essential in who I am now and the fact that I'm even in China and so many different things. And as I'm thinking about all this stuff, we're facing this coronavirus. And it's an opportunity for Christians to be a presence in the world. And I feel like one of the biggest debates Christians are having right now is, should we have church? And the condescension in the posts that are happening, the arguments that are rising up from this, are negating the value of having church or not. This video is entirely my opinion, and you can take it or you can leave it. Here's what I think. Should churches meet during this pandemic? If they want to. It's that simple. We should not be forcing other churches to do something that God may have specifically told them not to do. And as much as you want to feel like God would not tell churches not to meet, you don't know that. God deals with each of us in individual ways. He deals with us in unique ways. We do not have enough insight and knowledge into every relationship God has with every pastor and every board of elders and every church in every city. We don't know. We don't know what God is telling us. One of the older gentlemen that died in one of these other countries was a pastor. We don't know. Now, the Bible tells us that we are to be as harmless as doves and as wise as serpents, which means that we are not supposed to be very lackadaisical, very unconcerned as we face this pandemic. In fact, for us to be unconcerned is actually anti-Christian. Now, for me, the reason that I support fully for churches not to meet is we look at South Korea. And it was a mass gathering in a building that caused the outbreak that South Korea saw. It is very easy for this virus to spread if people are very close and someone is sick and not showing the symptoms of it. In churches, we sing, people cough, people sneeze, people are talking, people are hugging, people are close to each other. We need to respect the social distancing to try to prevent this pandemic from getting any worse. And once again, I say, if they want to. Jesus may be telling one church, stay open, you're fine, this is good. You're going to be a church where people can come and safely gather. Whereas he may be telling another church, no, you need to close. Because Jesus and God know. They know. And we have no right to put on other churches something that may not even be God telling you that. That's the other thing. It may be your pride. You're feeling that, oh, we're above this. But we're not. We're not above any illness. We're not above any sickness. And for us to feel that arrogance, that we are untouchable, that is pride, not faith. We need to be wise in this situation. There are so many different avenues. This is the perfect opportunity for us to reach out to people through social media, through other ways. There are other ways to reach the lost, to be encouragement, to be supportive. also consider, what do you consider the church? If the church is a building, you've got it wrong. The church is a people. So does it matter if the church meets in their building? No. I think that we are losing the point. And that's something we do a lot, us modern Christians. We are straining at a gnat in the soup when the camel's rump is sitting right before us. We have to remember that this virus is very detrimental and deadly to people that are over the age of 60. And a lot of the congregations and people that go to church are 50 and over. We also have to realize that they have shown that this virus, if caught, even if the person's 23 and they catch it and they get sick and they get over it, it damages their lungs. This is not something to just shrug at and to exhibit pride at. We can reach people. We can be the church without having a meeting on Sunday mornings. We need to show the world that we care. So consider the ways you can do that. If your church is not going to meet, then just make sure you reach out. We used to have phone trees in our church. Do we still have that? Then take the time with your phone tree to reach out. Just delegate certain people and be like, you're going to reach out to these 7 people, and this is going to be your little prayer circle, and you're going to check on each other through text and social media and whatever means that person's using. Checking on people to make sure that they're okay, that they're dealing with the social distancing okay. Isolation is a killer. But we don't want to pridefully insist that we have church services and put people in danger, because that is not godly. And we don't want to shame other believers because they are not having church services. We also don't want to shame church goers that do not feel comfortable attending a church service. Friends, this is a time of love and compassion. We should always have love and compassion. As I'm going through my seminary classes, I'm reading a book, and it's talking about how Jesus never forced an answer. With the disciples, he was patient, and he waited, and he trained them, and he taught them, and he didn't just say, are you gonna do this or not? They had to know him first. They had to see who he was before they made the decision. So are we going to sit here and are we going to insist that people walk into church not knowing if the person next to them has coronavirus? Look, guys, this is temporary. This is temporary. And if we're going to believe that the church is actually a building, we need to rethink what church means. So in my opinion, should a church meet during this time? Should churches meet while we're having this pandemic? If the Lord is telling them to meet, then yes. Personally, my opinion, I believe that God has put us in a time when we have so many different ways to minister, so many different ways to be the church, to touch people and to affect people and to enact change and to bring hope without needing to be inside 4 walls. And I think stubbornly insisting on meeting just because it makes you feel more Christian to meet inside a building, I feel that that is more detrimental to faith and to people overall than to just take some time and not have your church services. It doesn't mean you stop being the church. It doesn't mean that no one's there to answer the phone, or if there's a need that no one's there to meet it. That's not what I'm talking about. But to actively say, we will not endanger the people we love, our fellow brothers and sisters, by insisting on showing religion by meeting in our church. Instead, we welcome you to participate in online services. If you don't offer those, there has to be a church you agree with in your community that does. Direct them to that church. Online services. If you don't have a partnership with a church in your community, there is something wrong with your church, because we're not enemies. The Bible says those that are not against me are for me. We have to remember that we are all in this fight together. And while we may have differences in opinions on some things, we should be able to count on each other in a time like this. The other thing is small groups. You can have small groups to have prayer or Bible studies. But be safe and be smart. The Bible does not call us to be ignorant. We see this all the time with those snake-handling churches, and we say that that is foolish to think that you can hold a poisonous snake and never be bitten. We insist that that's foolish, and yet here we sit with the coronavirus insisting that we can gather together in big groups, and because we're doing it within a church, that we're safe. Guys, I am not limiting the power of God. I'm telling you that He has told us to be smart. To be smart. And to find different ways. Be creative. The church is not a building. Be creative. But once again, as I wrap this video up, if you're going to meet, that's okay. And if you're not going to meet, that's okay. Neither of you are more saved or less saved than the other. Salvation is a matter of your heart. If you have given your heart to Christ, you're saved, whether you're in church on Sunday or not. And church is important. Do not disregard church. You need the gathering of the saints. You need that godly word fed to you, and you need time of study on your own as well. But if in this time of pandemic and crisis, where large groups gathering together can actually be a negative thing, that needs to be taken into account. The church is still the church, even if it isn't meeting inside a building of four walls. The church is still light. It is still hope. It can still bring its message. It can still bring light, and it can still bring hope to the world without having an active service inside a building. It can still be done. Be creative. Think outside the box. Think of others. And most importantly, pray. If the Lord tells you not to do it, then don't do it. If the Lord tells you it's okay, then it's okay. But also don't ostracize or mistreat any members of the congregation that do not feel comfortable coming to church at this time. Be the church wherever you are. God bless.